Welcome to In Touch Crime Beat. I'm Officer Don with Fayette Commonwealth's Attorney Ray Larson.
Out of jail, okay? Don't mess up.
And those are the people, those repeat offenders, the ones that go to prison. And
I say we're the #1 rated radio show in the whole
Second part of
country.
In Touch. This is Crime Beat. I'm Officer Don with Fayette Commonwealth's Attorney Ray Larson and friends this morning.
Well, that's right. And one of the things that my friends who are here in the studio with us today want to talk about is this influx of heroin coming into our community and creating all sorts of havoc. With us are Carl Williams, who is going to be a second-year law student at the University of Kentucky Law School. Carl, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, sir. You doing good?
So far. And Lisa Cole, who is going to be a senior at Sayre High School. And hey, Lisa.
Hey, Mr. Larson.
And what's going on here is that they have, since they're doing our internship this summer, I've given them this project of dealing with heroin long before the latest information came out on this drug overdose business. And I'll tell you, it's when I first realized this drug overdose death is an issue was at the end of 2012 when the coroner, Gary Gann, came and Danny Page, who's a detective with the Lexington Police Department, came up with a little study that showed that we had 14 traditional homicides where somebody shoots somebody or stabs them or however they do it. We had 21 traffic fatalities and we had 63 drug overdose deaths. And that just stunned me because that's kind of under the radar.
Is that heroin specific?
Nope,
To
nope.
heroin?
22 of those 63 were heroin.
Now, the year before, how did those numbers match up? And then 5 years ago, were we seeing a lot of heroin deaths?
Oh, yeah. No.
Okay.
No, as a matter of fact, Carl, tell us about how this is developed.
Well, I think from 2002 to 2006, there were no heroin overdoses on record. And then from 2007 to 2011, it only amounted to like 1 in 5 deaths from drug overdoses.
How many? I'm sorry.
1 in 5.
Okay. 1 in 5 were heroin.
Yeah.
But we've seen those
No,
numbers.
125 in each of those years.
So the point is, up until recently, we really were, it was minuscule. We were not seeing a lot of heroin in the community, and certainly not a lot of OD, right? But
Yes.
now there it is. And we've talked about this before. Tell us some of the reasons that's changed.
Well, what do you think, Lisa? What do you think some of the issues are that have caused people to start using heroin?
Well, in Kentucky, after a pill mill bill was passed, it was harder for a lot of people to get prescription drugs and to maintain using the prescription drugs. So as prescription drug prescriptions were decreased,
Yeah.
a lot of people turned to heroin, and it's also cheaper and in some ways can be easier to get a hold of than prescription pills now.
Yeah, probably the pill mill bill, the law that sort of constricted the pill pipeline has been effective. One of the few effective laws that I've heard the legislature pass in a long time, and that has worked. Now, most of the pills that people are addicted to, and guess what? We all know somebody who is having a problem with pills. Everybody knows somebody, or somebody in their family knows somebody. And so what happens when they're addicted to those opiate-based, comes from opium, these opiate-based pills like Oxycontin, oxycodone, those kind of pills. When those are harder to get, they turn to another opiate-based drug, and this time it's an illicit drug, which is heroin. Now, what's the difference between taking a pill a prescription pill that you get and taking heroin that you buy off the street from some jackass.
Well, at least the heroin or the pill has been produced by a pharmaceutical company. You know exactly what the dosage is. You know how it was made. So you can self-regulate to some extent with some confidence. Heroin, on the other hand, I guess comes in different strengths, and you just have no idea what you're getting.
What's the term that's used, Carl, by law enforcement when somebody gets a powerful dose, high purity dose of heroin? They call it a hot shot.
Yeah, hot shot.
And what happens is that somebody gives you a hot shot, meaning the purity is such that it immediately shuts down your body, and you are what you call dead. And you know, that's just happening now. You know, one of the questions is, so in 2013, what's going on? Because I told you what happened in 2012. Well, so far through the middle of May, there were 39 drug overdose deaths. 39. 27 of those are heroin related. Now, most of the time you don't just have heroin, you got a combo of drugs. A heroin cocktail, they call it. And so it's, you know, this is interesting, Officer Don, because heroin, at least these overdose deaths, is mostly a white guy's drug. You know, 95% of the people of those 39 or 37 of them were white guys.
So a lot of meth users going over to heroin too. You're seeing that because I know meth tends to be a white crime too.
Well, but meth is a different ball game. You know, it gets you cranked up like cocaine. These are two different kind of drugs. So, Carl, tell us a little bit about what's going on around Kentucky on this heroin thing. Lexington's not the only one that's dealing with this.
I know Northern Kentucky has been having a huge problem. Most of it's based out of Cincinnati and flowing down over the river into Kentucky. It's the Mexican cartels were already there in Cincinnati, so it wasn't that hard to switch from, from prescription drugs to heroin, and it's it's cheaper, so people are using that. They have 60% of Kentucky's heroin prosecutions, even though they only have 8.4% of the population.
So it's a huge problem in Northern Kentucky, and it's coming right down the interstate highway.
And the heroin, you said the Mexican cartels, that's a drug that's produced, I assume, in Mexico and brought here?
Mexico and other places.
How do you make heroin, you know?
I'm not sure. I don't have the training in there.
That into it, but okay, so they're
Well, maybe Lisa knows. You know how you make heroin, kiddo?
Well, heroin is produced from an opiate plant, or a poppy plant, which is produced in the Middle East predominantly. You won't see it in Southern American countries, but frequently it is transferred over the border.
And they just cook it down into whatever they're going to cook it into? Is that how that works? You mix it with other chemicals and produce a heroin?
I'm not certain, but I'm pretty sure that's how it's produced.
Well, we're making
it's not like a meth
now.
lab. No, but it's not like the meth labs. You're not finding heroin labs here in Kentucky. This stuff is brought in. It's imported for the most part, and then sold. And you mentioned the Mexican cartel, so I'm assuming it's coming in from South America. That's where we're getting it.
It's coming in. I'm told that it's coming in from Afghanistan through Mexico.
On the border.
Yeah, and let me tell you something. If there's going to be money in it, then the Mexican cartels are going to be involved in it. Now, so what are we trying to do about it? Everybody in the world has got a task force now to deal with heroin. What we have done is created the drug version of ceasefire. Now, you tell me what ceasefire does, Officer Don.
Well, Ceasefire is a project that you spearheaded years ago. Gosh, has it been 10 years now? It's been forever
Oh, no,
ago.
It's been about
Longer than that?
13 years.
We're-
Still meets.